First, I just want to say, I want to let my subscribers know out there that for the new year, one of the things I'm going to be doing, which has been on my heart for a minute now, I have created a new channel geared towards my roster people. It's called the Naya Bingy Drum News Channel. I have so much footage back when I was in DC, different concerts that I used to film and so forth. I drew the conclusion that they need their own channel. You know what I'm saying? So it's called the Naya Bingy News Channel, NYABINGI Drum News Channel. I just threw it up. I got one video on there. By a roster who used to walk up and down 125th Street. Dr. Reggie probably remembers him, Ross McPherson.
I know Ross McPherson. Yes, I do. And he was a good student of Dr. Ben, believe it or not. Ross McPherson, he knew all of us, knew all of our greats, and we miss him. We miss him much. And he was our envoy to what was going on in Ethiopia and all these other places. Ross McPherson was always on the front line of trying to get our people to understand his work and his faith and stuff like that. Even though we had some difficult disagreements because of Nile Valley culture, Ross McPherson is missed.
Yes, sir. While we're on the topic now of Nile Valley culture, I saw the great Dr. Ben on a video clip say that the Medunetta could not be spoken. He said something like, you see all these people out here saying that they can speak it. He said, explain that, brother.
Right. Well, I think that was an important, that's an important point that Dr. Ben was speaking, and yeah, and I think that bled into some misunderstanding of what Dr. Ben was saying. See, people say that they're students of Dr. Ben, but they just don't listen. Dr. Ben was saying that there are people who actually believe that they're experts in speaking the Nile Valley language. Dr. Ben was not talking about whether or not the Nile Valley language was being deciphered. He was talking about there are people who have never heard Nile Valley language, as the same way they never heard Hebrew, they never heard Assyrian, nor have they ever heard Akkadian, nor have they ever heard Pro-Canaanite, right? Or any early Semitic and many ancient languages. So there were people out here when Dr. Ben was out here who was reading Wallace Budge's Parody Monroe, where he transliterated, and they were speaking the transliterations as if they were valid. Brother Baba, and to our audience, that's not what this debate was about at all. This debate was basically saying, can we take these symbols called hieroglyphics, and can we make them into a language that we can understand? Had nothing to do with us speaking it. However, there are people who attempt to speak it based on Coptic. Hey, how y'all doing? Peace to y'all. Good to see you. Hotep, right? Who attempt to speak it because there are some sounds that relate to Coptic. There are some sounds that relate to Coptic. For example, Napoleon, he detected the word or the symbol Ra. In Coptic, the symbol Ra, the symbol of the sun, is Ra. Napoleon knew that, oh wow, I got some special guests right here. Napoleon knew that sun in Coptic is Ra, and that Coptic is the last language of the Nile Valley Africans. So Napoleon was smart enough. Come over here, come here. You're not gonna talk? You got, come on, it's the new year. I mean, people need to be educated. Huh? Hey, Brother Rick, how you doing? All right. You know what it is, Sister Ass? The problem is that a lot of people don't see a lot of scholars, women scholars, who know their stuff, who can do science, who can relate it to African culture. A lot of our people are into spooky stuff. And they just think that they don't understand what prayer means, right? Prayer is scientific. Right. Prayer means you're observing and giving praise to. It could be quantum physics. It could be quantum physical. It could be to just to other human beings. It could be to something that you perceive as a force, right? But people don't understand that. They don't
understand that prayer is an acknowledgement of your oneness with the all called by many different names. I don't care what you call the all, but it's an acknowledgement that you are one with the water, one with the atoms that's moving through your body, that's slowed down to vibrate to make you into who you are. So it can be used to just remind you of that. You understand? So prayer is not some spooky thing. It's not something that somebody created. It came out of you. And you are the sum total of your ancestors. And if you say that you are one with the creative force, then that means that, see, I just lost my train of thought. But you understand what I'm saying. It's like you are really acknowledging that you are that which you call the God force.
So let me give you, because I know that you're in the scientific, biological, medical field.
Yes.
Do you know the first written doctor? The first written doctor. Yes. Who was the first written doctor?
Before Imhotep?
Yes.
I don't know.
I'm going to tell you, sister, because you know we study, yes, right?
Please.
Okay. One of the sons of Africa, you know, because we all study Nile Valley culture. They say. So he had to pull my coat. He said, Brother Reggie, this is Brother Pat, right?
Yes.
He says, you're not the only one who studied under Dr. Ben.
Right.
Her name.
Yes.
The first recorded doctor.
Yes.
See, Imhotep was a doctor, yes, right? But this sister, I'm going to tell you her name. You can look her up. She is the first recorded chief doctor. Her name is Merit Ptah.
Merit
Ptah is the first doctor. She is the chief of the doctors. And you can look up, when you walk by, you can just Google her, but people don't understand. Imhotep, she was contemporary with Imhotep. Guess what? Imhotep would have studied under her because she was the chief. Imhotep was the advisor. He was the architect. He knew medical science, but he would have had to study under Merit Ptah. Could you believe that, sister?
I can believe it.
You go look it up, because I know.
I will. Please, can you spell that so that I can look it up and everybody that's listening to you
sure.
Today?
Merit is Merit, yes, and then Ptah is Ptah. Ptah. So, or you know, sometimes they leave the A out, so it's PTH, right?
Right.
Or it could be MRT.
Right.
Space PTH with no vowels. That's what you would more likely find in the Metanetia, or it could be Merit Ptah. Merit Ptah is a sister who was our first doctor.
You know what?
Contemporary with Imhotep, who would have taught Imhotep because she was a chief doctor.
I appreciate
And why were we doctors? Because women give birth.
That's
women
right.
see being a midwife is a medical science.
It's a natural science.
That's exactly exactly right. And so,
yeah.
So give praise. But
Thank
see,
you so much,
all right. So, but look up Merit Ptah, and that will. This is why we do this work, because
right.
this work finds things about us that we did not know. So we're always talking about Imhotep,
yes,
because the Europeans want to point to men. They don't want to point to women. Women were the first scientists. Every important principle that we have is a female principle. Ma'at, Aset, Tefnut, Sheshet, Sekhmet, even Ishfet. Even Ishfet, which is evil, is still a feminine principle.
Right.
So people don't know. So it's a pleasure.
Thank you so much for enlightening me and enlightening the audience. You know, no, seriously. One thing I really appreciate about you, Dr. Brother Reggie.
Brother Reggie's.
I know you always like to correct us, but I like using that also. No, I really appreciate your work, brother, and I really appreciate how you always like make us more aware of the feminine presence. And you're not the first, but I'm just saying in this contemporary time, like in everything, even when we went on a tour to the museum, you made sure that you took us to the part of the museum where our ancestors, like you see the work of the feminine presence and how there is salvation for the woman. Like we always, you know, I'm not going to go all into the patriarchy and everything that it teaches, but I really appreciate that about you, how you dig deeper and you show where the mother principle is very much in tandem
It's the only way to
and in
teach
unison with.
It's the only way to teach Now-Valley culture. Now-Valley culture is about the family, not about the male, not about the female, but the male and the female to create another part of themselves.
That's
To
right.
continue to think. So thank you so much.
Thank you, my brother.
Next time we got to get you a camera because you know your stuff, right?
All right.
Peace. Hey, Rick, love you. Peace, man. Hey, look, man, I'm supposed to be down the street with Dr. J thing today. You know that, right? Okay. Look.
What you said, the Hebrews, that they can't pronounce. You was talking about the language.
That's right. So, there is no one who have heard these ancient languages, the Nile Valley, the ancient Hebrew, the ancient Canaanite, the ancient Moabite language. So no one has heard these languages. All we do is we try to pick out some words and try to articulate these words, right? So when Dr. Yosef Ben Jochanan was saying, blah, 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 right? What he is basically saying is that basically there are people who are frauds out here who are acting as if because they pronounce it a certain way that it is that in fact. But that's not what this debate was about. The debate was not about speaking the Medu Neter, even though our opponents thought it was. No. What it is about the ancient language of the Nile Valley African is a code system that we converted into a language so that we can understand what it's saying. Now let me say why that's important. If we could not do that, then the only experts on ancient culture would have been the Europeans, would have been the Greeks, would have been the Josephus in the Bible, Josephus and the biblical scholars. That means African people was never able to tell our own story. Now, these people that we were going to debate, first of all, the problem going into the debate, and shout out to the Amin Ra squad, shout out to the Masi clan, shout out to the Daga squad, and shout out to all the groups that studying, shout out to MPK, shout out to my brother Asar Mkar and my brother 93. Shout out to them dudes, for sure, right? The issue is going into this concept of the debate, because no one's really heard me talk about the subject. I'm gonna talk a little bit about the subject right now. The problem with them going into the debate is that they had no material, no books to reference. Even when they referenced Budge, it's out of context. They never really understood what Budge was actually saying. Wallace Budge was saying about translations and transliterations. Converting a code and transliterating it is to get a sound, right? That sound may not be completely accurate, but it gives us a way in which to look at other languages. It gives us a way to look at other languages to see if in fact, like Coptic, to see in fact if that sound is in the sound of Coptic. And that's one of the important things that happened in the decipherment when Napoleon detected that some symbols, like the sound of Ra, was actually, which meant the sun in Coptic, could be the ancient Egyptian Ra. And that was important to determining the word Rameses. Now, we use this word name Coptic to describe Coptic people, Coptic language. But in fact, it's not that. That's just an Arabic word taken from a corruption of the Greek Hatkapa, basically the house of Ptah, which they called the land. And that was shortened in Greek to be Egypt. And then the Arabics, who were also studying Coptic, minimized it to Copt. However, the language called by the indigenous people, the Coptic, the so-called Coptic people, is Rami Kimi. Rami Kimi. Now, that's interesting because the ancient Egyptian word for people is Remet. And so Rami Kimi means the language of the Kimi, the language of the Kimi is Egypt, so the language of the Kimis. So there you see how Coptic can be very, very helpful in helping us to understand ancient Egyptian language. So I'm just trying to make this clear that once you transliterate it and you actually got the sounds, then we can look at the Coptic and then we can build a dictionary based on Coptic. Now, all of this continues to be under further examination. We don't disagree. We don't disagree that there could be mistakes. We don't disagree. However, through years of studying from multiple groups of scholars, there have been several dictionaries formed, and one of them has been the Cerny Dictionary of Coptic. And Brother Ujat and Brother Neterneb of the Amirat Squad can elaborate further on the etymology of Coptic words when it comes to Medu Neter. This is something that we all learned when we were studying Dr. Riketti Almond's, the way she teaches the Medu Neter, because she teaches Medu Neter with Coptic to let us know that there is mutual intelligible. So let me go and talk about this a little bit. What do I mean by mutual intelligible? We're saying that there is an ancient Egyptian language, and in this language there were different scripts. We're also saying that over time the language changed from different periods for different reasons. What we're saying is that this is what we call a diachronical language. A diachronical language is a language that changes over a period of time. And why does language change over a different time period? Language changes because of invaders. Language changes because of new technology. Language changes because of disasters. Language changes because of sicknesses and other type of things, over a period of time, language changes. So there was something, there's pre-dynastic, there's Old Kingdom, there's the intermediate periods, there's Middle Kingdom, there's another intermediate period, there's the New Kingdom, there's an intermediate period, then it becomes the Late Kingdom, and etc. We're saying that ancient Egyptian language did not stay stagnant during this particular time, but every point it was mutual intelligible, meaning that an Old Kingdom speaker of the Medu Neter and writer of the Medu Neter could understand Middle Kingdom. Not perfect. Language changes. But Middle Kingdom and Old Kingdom was mutual intelligible. Middle Kingdom and New Kingdom was mutual intelligible. A New Kingdom speaker could understand what was happening in Middle Kingdom. Not perfectly, but it was mutual intelligible. And this continued until you have Coptic. Now, Coptic is mutual intelligible to the late period, and the late period is mutual intelligible to the New Kingdom, and so on. So at every given time period in the ancient Egyptian language system, speakers could possibly understand previous earlier parts of the language. For example, if you look at American English, we don't speak thee, thou, thou. We don't speak Old English. Right, Baba? We don't speak Old English, right? However, American English is mutual intelligible to Old English. We don't understand. We don't use those terms, but I can understand it if it was written. If it was written, I could understand it. You understand what I'm saying? I may not be able to speak it that way because I don't have the tenses. I don't understand how the language fits together, but I can understand it. So the ancient Egyptian language at all points was basically the same language with different changes. Now there's a difference between what we call different languages. For example, English and German is part of the same family, but they're different languages. Now, I can in fact read German or parts of German, or I can decipher German, right? If I have a text of German and a text of English side by side, I can build a vocabulary list. Do you understand what I'm saying, Baba? If German and English was written side by side, if I had two letters, then I could decipher German from English. So when we're talking about the Medu Neter, what happened in decipherment was we had three texts together in the Rosetta Stone. We had Greek, we had Demotic, and we had Medu Neter. And these are three scripts together. In the Rosetta Stone, the last line says that it was written three ways. So we know the text is saying the same thing three ways in those three different languages. It says that in the text. So that's an important clue. So then what we could do is we could put these texts side by side. And when we put these texts side by side, we can build a system to understand what the Greek was saying, because the Greek was something that was translatable. We had a known language and a known script. You understand what I'm saying? Are you following me? Now, when you have a known language and a known script, if you have another language, you could do what they call parallel analysis. Parallel analysis is when you line up the two things and then you search to find out if they're similar words, names. So when they did that, Thomas Young, beginning with Thomas Young, actually was beginning earlier with other groups of people, the Arabs and earlier groups of people, in cuneiform. But but I'm just going to deal with the Greeks. They knew and understood Greek. So they lined up Greek, and then they found, wow, there were these words that they could see the word Ptolemy inside the Rosetta Stone. That was an important thing. So then they saw a symbol inside a shinu, right? And then they worked from there, and they figured out that that was, in fact, that was Ptolemy. So they figured out that these symbols made sounds, right? And this was the beginning of formulating what you call the uniliterals, or the alphabet, the single sounding sounds, things like P, I, M, N, O, P, Q, R, right? As a matter of fact, the way I teach Meta Nature is that the Meta Nature, all the sounds of the Meta Nature are in the English language, the English alphabet. So the Meta Nature goes from A to Z. Most people don't know that. Did you know that, Baba? The Meta Nature, the single sounds go to A to Z. And this is the basis of all these other languages, Greek and etc., that derive from this system. Now, the difference between the Meta Nature is that the Meta Nature now has double sounding words and triple sounding words. A double sounding word is a word like ba, ka, right? And we call those things biliterals. And there's triple sounding words, like ankh, right? Like let's see, they're triple sounding symbols, and we call those triliterals. And that becomes a problem because they're symbols. And then one would say to you, well, how do you know, Reggie, this word pair, how do you know it's pair? Well, in some of the texts we would find two of the uniliteral symbols relating to that word pair. And then we would say, okay, these are complements. All these single sounding words are helping us actually articulate or transliterate what this symbol means. So this was a process that lasted, it's continuous in its understanding. But outside of that, scholars, all different types of scholars, because Coptic scholars, some of the Coptic scholars are not all white, they are black. Many people who are Coptic scholars are in Nubia, right? They created a dictionary based on Coptic and based on these Nile Valley sounds. So this is how the dictionary is built up. So it is a big fallacy to say that Nile Valley culture is from white folks when Coptic people are not white folks. The people in Nubia spoke Coptic language, right? So there are many, many texts that are from Nubia that find its way into Greek. So that's where Dr. Reggie has done some really great work in talking to us about Mendelusi, talking about the last Norsut Bidi or pharaoh or pharaonic figure, King Silko. All of this is in 5th, 6th AD. During the advent of that Nile Valley civilization will end when finally the Arabs were able to get into Nubia, and ultimately maybe it took about another 400 or 500 years after the Bach Treaty. Arab culture then erased the speaking of Nile Valley culture inside that area. But the problem is I'm saying to the family, the problem is, what references does my opponents have? My opponents have only their ideas, but no writing. We have the writings of Dr. Theophilo Benga, Dr. Shekhar Diop. We have the writings of Dr. Yosef Ben Jochanan. We have the writings of Dr. Riketi Ahmed. We have many Dr. Jacob Carruthers. We have Dr. Malana Karenga. We have the writings of many scholars who systematically and scientifically show that the Meta-Neter was deciphered and that it's not a white science. As a matter of fact, with our knowledge now, we are correcting European scholars on translations. One of the biggest problems with European translators is that they're happy to say that they can read the Meta-Neter, but they try to continuously make it European, make it white. And the word Kim in itself means the black community. It may not necessarily mean black people. That's one of the things that we go back and forth. But in one sense, it does, because the people, in fact, were black. So what my opponents have a problem with is that they are confused just because of their level of education. First of all, they don't got no education. I'm gonna just tell you. I mean, I'm not talking about white education. Let's talk about white education. You know, white education is just a proving ground. It means, can I understand what my enemy or my oppressor is thinking? Can I go through his course like his own? Right? That doesn't mean that I'm going to be indoctrinated, but I'm going to be able to use his tools. Bubba, we drive a car, right? We use phones, right, Bubba? We watch TV, right, Bubba? Yep. We watch the internet, right? Okay. The level of stupidity I have with the people is that they keep saying cracker, 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 but guess what? They making money with cracker tools, right? This camera, right? When you look at this camera, do you say it's a cracker, or do you look at it's a tool? It's a tool, right? So what we have a group of people what to do is when it suits them, they want to say that this is cracking technology, but at the same time they use it every day. Do you understand what I'm saying? And they use it to make money and promote themselves, right? So when it suits them, they're going to take a tool and say it's a cracker tool. Tools are built upon bits of information from multiple sources. So what they want to say is cracker education. Well, Dr. Benz taught in what they call universities. Dr. Clark taught in universities. Dr. Jeffries, Dr. Diop, Dr. Theophilo Benga, all of us. But you know what it is, Baba? Either they went there and they didn't complete it, but they want to come out and they want to act like it's not important, that the institution is not important. It is important to understand what our oppressor thinks, what his children thinks. We're in a warfare. So some of us go into the institution. The other part of it is, really, which of them actually really studied under the elders? Now, when I talk, I studied under Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, right? I've listened to Asa Hilliard. I've listened to Dr. Asa Hilliard. I listened to Jacob Carruthers, Obanga. I was there when civilization barbarism was being translated by Yalingi Ngemi. I was right there. I was in charge of the computer system. I was a part of all of this. I went to Egypt or Kemet in 1987. I went to West Africa in 1986 with Dr. Clark. Actually, in 87, Dr. Yosef Ben Jochanan came on my side of the tour because we was working for ASCAC, and that organization was created to give Dr. Yosef Ben Jochanan authority. And in 87, Dr. Ben, I was in charge of 100 people, and we were at Abu Simbel with 1,000 people. And when my group came into Abu Simbel, Dr. Yosef Ben Jochanan taught us personally. Now, this is the funny thing. I know what it is to have mouth-to-ear teachings because I have had special moments with them that's recorded. Now, the other people, they say that they were students of Dr. Ben, and I'm not taking that away from them. I'm saying that, yeah, maybe they were. Maybe they were. But I can say, I can show you when I was taught by Dr. Ben. I can have it verified by my own teachers. You understand what I'm saying? Now, in one sense, maybe you can dismiss that, Baba. You can dismiss that and say, yeah, well, we was just around Dr. Ben. I'm one of the few researchers that have verified Dr. Ben's greatest teachings. We come from the foothills of the mountains of the moon where God happy dwelt. I am the only scholar who verified what text best fits that. So I'm just not a Dr. Ben regurgitator, I'm a Dr. Ben researcher. Now, the Amin-Ra squad was certainly capable of winning this debate, and the problem is that, man, it's the greatest debate that never happened. Baba, it was the greatest debate topic that never happened. It's a shame that bad character floated into this. Now, you are looking at, and everybody's looking at, snippets of what they presented, right? What the Amin-Ra squad presented, and what people are still presenting. They have no case. What they're talking about is non-intelligible. It is not making sense. They're not using any of the technical tools, right, to verify what they're saying. Why does all this matter, Baba? Who gives a damn about the Meta-Necha? Who gives a damn, Baba? I'm going to tell you why you should give a damn. Without the Meta-Necha being deciphered, it is the white man and his culture and his religions that dictate to us Africa. When my opponents talk about Egypt and use these words, how do they know these words? If it wasn't deciphered, the only way they can know these words is from our oppressor. So Ma'at and Ramses and Assad and any of these words, Hotep, that means our oppressor gave them their words. I can't sit with that. If I can't, my job is to be able to verify what the Europeans said. You understand the process of a tool, Baba? When you have a tool, you can use the tool on different interfaces, right, as long as the tool fits. So the same tool that I use, huh? Peace, Brother Garfield, man. What's going on, man?
Robin's love right here.
Yeah, right here. Yeah, you know,
They got me on the clown. They're clowning me today, man. This is my job. That's the way it is today.
Oh yeah, but you're a killer out here, boy.
Let me learn something, man. Go ahead.
All right. So a tool. Once you establish a tool, we use the tool of decipherment as a tool, and we use it to verify what the Europeans say, as well as to agree or disagree among ourselves. Because we have the same tool. That's science. Science allows us to deliver tools. Now, if you don't have a tool, you're guessing. You're not doing any work. So the decipherment process is a scientific result of using tools of linguistics and mastery of language and knowledge of language. Now, my opponents, they don't talk about Coptic. They don't know anything about Coptic. They don't talk about sources. They're not well read on the subject. They just have ideas, and we are much more, we're at a stage of our people's race that we are advanced, and we can't allow people to dumb us down like that.
Let me ask you a quick question, brother. Yeah. Hey, do you think one of the main problems we have with any decipherment argument is that people don't understand languages from scripts? That's one of the biggest problems?
Well, yes. Well, Godfrey, you can stay here. It's not only that, and that was a big problem with this this debate, whereas our opponents, they're concerned about how we speak it, right? Whether or not understanding it. For example, mathematics, a mathematical equation, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? And when I say a squared plus b squared plus c squared, what I'm doing is I'm describing a mathematical formula.
Right.
I'm not speaking a language. I'm actually talking about a code system that can be deciphered, right? So what people don't understand is, in fact, that when we look at the meta nature, what we're doing is we're taking a code system and putting it in a way in which we can understand what it's saying or doing. We don't have to speak it. Like most math equations, you don't speak. You speak just to decide what's the operations, but you're not actually speaking the language. 1 + 1 = 2.
Good point.
Right.
Hey, you said something the other night on the live stream with Dr. Reggie. That was very important. Ancient Hebrew, we don't know how it sounds.
Absolutely not.
No, I've never heard nobody, that blew my mind. I'm like, I just thought about it. I'm like, hold up. If we look at the history of scripts,
right,
we look at the Egyptian. I'm going to use the word Egyptian because that's what everybody knows.
That's fine.
All right. And then we look at the Canaanite script. We look at the other scripts like Aramaic and Hebrew,
Assyrian, Akkadian,
right? And then we come down to the Greek.
Right.
Can you speak on, if the script originally wasn't made, how does the fact that we go down to Greek and got to English, how much of an effect, if the Medinetta wasn't deciphered, would be on us today? How would we even know that we speak in English if the Medinetta, well, I won't say speaking, but writing. But go ahead, brother.
Well, luckily for us, the Greeks were actually in contact with the Egyptians, or the Kemetu, or the Ramesh. They were, right? And they recorded things, and they put it in Greek language. So now what we do now is we analyze the Greek language. For example, Africanus and others, these Greek historians, right? They did King's List, and they wrote down things like de jure, de jet, din, mint, and they wrote this down in Greek, right? So now when we have finally figured out how to decipher the meta nature, we go back into the Greek and say, okay, let's check their King's List. We say, oh shoot, they actually was using ancient Egyptian words and put it in the Greek language.
We go back to Coptic again. A lot of people need to listen, man. It's deeper than ABC, but when you look at all the work like Arapalo did, we understand that Arapalo wasn't really right and exact, but he tried. You know what I'm saying? He tried, and then you had people years later, the Arabic scholars, they did their thing. They had people after him. So
right. So we look at the process, and we're able to look at their mistakes. See, when we have a tool, then we can use that tool to verify through different periods.
Before you go into this, something very important. I have a book that I found, through Google. I found it through Google, where it talks about Champollion and how they put their teams together. A lot of Sudanese slaves were freed because they act like white folks just got up and could communicate. They had to learn. The slaves are the closest to the ancient Egyptians who could possibly know the language.
So you keep talking,
so they,
and I'm gonna catch up, and I'm
right. Because basically, the Sudanese slaves, they pretty much knew the language of the ancient Kemetu. So, and I think Asar Imhotep talked about the Kalenjin people who for 2,500 years, they were remaining in the same era. So people could possibly speak it. It's not like it's impossible. But the Sudanese slaves were freed for Cole's, I think his name is Cole, Koelle. He's one of the people that worked on the decipherment. So there were some on his team, some on Champillion's team. So these are the people that helped Champillion. He couldn't do it by himself. He had to have a team, and whoever has a team is the one that normally does the whole decipherment. And the team has to be, population-wise, got to be a lot of people. It can't be Napoleon and Reggie or me and Reggie alone. It had to be a group, a team attached to a university or a culture. Go ahead.
Well, it all starts with Napoleon in the modern sense. Napoleon now marches his army into ancient Egypt, right, for science. To finally crack the codes that everybody else was pointing to Kemet for. Napoleon is looking for a new science. So he goes in there to look for a weapon, to look for technology, to look to finally, so he brings a team, as you spoke, right? And they weren't called scientists at the time. I forgot the name of the word that they called, but they were groups of scholars.
Right.
Because they weren't science. The word science now, Garfield, wasn't created yet. There was no word for science with Napoleon.
Right, the late 1700s.
Why? Because religion was still the determining factor of this.
Sadly.
Religion. Well, because now we're watching the Europeans come out of land poor, resource poor, people poor, and education poor, and have a golden age.
Yep.
So they march into Egypt, right? And so they take hold over the technology and the land and the artifacts, right? Now, there are African people still living there. These are some of the people that you are talking about. They're called the Nubian people, right? They're in the south largely, but they go back and forth, right? They still speak different versions of Coptic.
Right.
So there's Coptic with the Hutkapa or Rami Kimi has different dialects. So there's Boradic. There's several of these Coptic languages. So now what's happening is that, okay, so now Champollion gets access to some materials, is able to communicate because he had mastered one of the Coptic dialects. He did.
Right.
And so he was able to see, he figured out, well, let's see if Coptic is, they say Coptic was here, let's see if this has anything to do with Nile Valley. So he found out that, wow, Coptic's sun Ra is in fact, this symbol that looked like a sun might be Ra. And then he figured out Ramesses, right? So he's using scientific principles, the rebus principle, the aquaphonic principle. So he's using scientific principles, and so that's how this was built. However, the people that was speaking, that you're talking about, these are the Cushitic people that Dr. Faraji is talking about, right? They are in fact still speaking Coptic language
today.
So now this comes into Dr. Yosef Ben Jochanan. How you doing, sister? Dr. Yosef Ben Jochanan, there's only one way to understand how Dr. Yosef Ben Jochanan rivals the European counterparts. Do you know how that is?
Nah.
He wasn't in the libraries. He didn't have access to the libraries. Right. He wasn't an Egyptologist.
He dealt with the natives. He must have dealt with the natives.
He dealt with the Nubian and the Coptics.
Must have.
And it was those that gave him the information, and that information rivaled the Europeans. That is what Dr. Yosef Ben Jochanan says, and that has to be the only reason, because he didn't have access to these libraries. These libraries are closed shelves. So for him to be able, that means he was taken under the wing of Coptics and Nubians, Nuba people, and walked into understanding the language. One of the things that he was great with is chronology. He was great with chronology, and he was great with the King's List.
Oh, okay. Hey, who? You mean Dr. Ben?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
But he wasn't someone who you would say would be able to translate whole passages of the Medu Neter.
Okay. Let me ask you a question, right? This I know you're talking about the King's List, and you're talking about Dr. Ben and the Medinet as deciphered. I don't have to believe that the Medinet has been deciphered. I know it has been deciphered. I gotta ask you a question.
Why do you know? You got to be careful with this because, see, this is Brother Garfield, who's a scholar researcher.
Right.
You can have a pseudo who says, I know. What's the difference? See, so there's a difference.
You see, you just broke it down. The aquaphonics, you broke down the rebus principle. And for those who don't understand the rebus principle, it's basically like you have an eye and you see, what's a good example? I did it where you have belief. You know, it's just signs and different things in life that just means different words. Like you would see an I to represent and the letter I and
they
different
occur
things.
in a way in which that that you can see actually what the meaning is. So they occur. So they are sounds and words that occur to help you understand what it's saying without actually really knowing what the sound say. So there is a placement that you can use to determine. The aquaphonic principle is when a letter like patah, like a symbol gives the sound of the sentence or the word of the word. Yeah.
Let me ask you, this is a King's List question, all right? Why is it that the brother that wrote When We Ruled, forgot his name, but why is it that he pointed out a lot of things with the King's List? Why is it that they reduced it so many years when James Breasted took over the Oriental Institute? Meaning that Champollion or the brother, no, not Champollion, the one in the Petrie.
Yeah.
Petrie used to say it was 8,000 BC, and then he went down to 5,000 BC, 4,800 BC. Why did it go from such a big age? Because when you look at Herodotus' King's List, it matches with what a lot of people say as far as Africanus and those, when you put everything together.
Yeah.
Why did they bring the King's List all the way to 3,200 BC? Why did they bring it all the way down?
Well,
because there is evidence that the King's List was older than that, or the first dynasty was older than that. Why is it now we accept from James Breasted became the chairman of the Oriental Institute, it went from 5,000 BC to 3,200 BC?
Well, being scholarly or doing scholarly work says that it's all under investigation. So there's nothing hard and fast about this, right? The only thing that's hard and fast about this is the Bible, right? The Bible tries to make things hard and fast, right? Okay. The problem is that there are things that we haven't discovered. So we in some periods they say, like an intermediate period, they might say 70 kings lived in 70 days, or in a period of time.
Oh, that's what
we don't have all of the data, right? But now we have to ask Brother Garfield, what is being disturbed about the data? The biggest criticism is the church. But we also have, radiocarbon data and stuff like that.
Right.
So my question is that it's only relative to, it's the biblical, the religious people who are the biggest criticism of when Nile Valley culture. The fact of the matter is, Nile Valley culture came from deeper south.
Deeper south, definitely.
Up south, right? And that the history of humanity begins with the African.
Period.
And that this technology and this science and this belief system and these walked from up south down north. They got it later.
Period.
Right? So their God had nothing to do with this, Garfield.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, let me there's a what do you call it? I think also that the Sumerian, the fact that they found all the archaeology with Sumeria played a role in that, and they wanted to connect themselves to Mesopotamia as a route, has a lot to do with that too.
Oh, because they was losing the war.
Yeah.
See, that's this new revisionism that's going on. So let's talk about that a little bit.
All right.
Soon you're gonna sit down with Zion Lex and bust his ass, right? So.
Yeah, definitely. That whole Sumer thing. A lot of people don't realize that Sumer, before 6000 BC, was a swamp. So when we look at history, so when the Sagigi came in, and you brought this up the other night,
Yeah.
people got to realize these are people that came in. We don't know when they exactly came in. We could estimate, but we see like a difference in the culture. You know, around 3500 BC, around that area. You know,
it was much earlier. Sagika people have been in that region probably 1,000 years before.
So-called writing, the writing that they had.
Yeah, they were there. So
All right, so let's say they're there from, well, not the I won't say the Uruk period. I'll say the Ubaid period, or is it the Uruk period? I'll say the Uruk period. The Uruk period. So that period, it starts around, well, you said 4200, and then we have the Uruk period. I mean, 46 or either way. Anyway, but why is it that people are trying to confuse the Sagigi script, which is not a Semitic script? So they are not really attached to a Semitic people. We attach them to the people in the Congo, Niger-Congo region. All right. So now I think that's the biggest mistake that my brother is making, because he's confusing again language with script.
well, yeah. I don't want to. Certainly when you debate him, you certainly call me. So I don't want to give everything up, but I will say this. The Akkadians invaded the Sagika people.
Yes, that's obvious. We all know that.
The Akkadians were Semitic or Shemitic speakers. So once they took the writing system, they were able to now infuse their culture inside a writing system that they stole. So the more important thing is that if they want to connect these people up to Hebrews, well, how come their God didn't give them a writing system? Right? Why did the two writing systems are Nile Valley African and the Sagigas, why didn't their God give them a writing system? So now, after that point is made, what else is there to talk about? So you're not the chosen people. There's nothing chosen about you. And then, ultimately, at the end of the day, God is kind of confused. Why is, we end up in Canaan, right, Garfield? We end up in, this whole saga ends up in Canaan. First, God curses Canaan, and then God gives Canaan to Abraham.
And who does Canaan come from? It comes from Ham, right? So
I don't even. You see, I don't
all right,
even.
I'm gonna leave it there.
All right.
Thanks, bro.
Okay. All right. So, because we have so much new information and so much well-settled information, we can in fact have these arguments. This debate that was going to happen that did not happen would have been one of the greatest teachings that we would have had. It was a great topic to have, but I can say that bad character led its way into this. I was interested in seeing if they had primaries, and they said to the people, they lied to the people, saying that they had primaries. The only primaries they had was court case primaries. That's the only primaries they had. They lied to the people. They got the people paying, wanted to see their information, but they never produced any of the documents they said. Now the worst part of it, the worst part of it is that their primaries that they were going to bring up, whose primaries, whose libraries were these primaries in? So that means to tell me now that they actually use cracker research? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like if the European has the primaries, then these people, these same people who are calling it cracker is studying the cracker primaries. Right? So I think that we covered a lot of subjects at this time period. The Amara Squad is going to weigh in. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation here, so I'm not as specific as I would like to be on a lot of these matters, but I think that you understand my concept of mutual intelligible languages, how Coptic is a stage of ancient Egyptian language, that is mutually intelligible to late kingdom, new kingdom, middle kingdom, old kingdom, mutual intelligible. Peace, brother. How you doing? All right. And that if our opponents had primaries, then it came out of the cracker libraries. But if they so now they want to use the cracker tools, as they call them, when they want to use it. The other thing is there's never been any researcher, a scholar that has said anything that they have said. So these are all new ideas. The other thing is, fact of the matter is, man, these dudes can't write. They don't even have the tool of the English writing system on their side. None of them can write. Have you ever seen a text of any of them? Have you ever seen them write anything? Can they footnote? Can they source? Family. They don't have the tools to deal with real scholars. They don't have the school. They do not have the tools to deal with real scholars. They never had the tools to deal with the Amirah squad. Because they don't write. You show me when they wrote a whole paper. Show me one of the papers that they wrote. They can't write. Listen, our people are better than that. Our people are better than that. Our people deserve high quality scholarship if you say you're going to bring it. So my biggest problem with them, if they said they had the primaries, where did they get the primaries? And all of a sudden they want to use the European primaries when they feel is necessary, without examining all of the information, right? The theses, the antitheses, and the synthesis. See, they don't know these technical terms. All they are is symbolic people. What they really want to do is crash a platform and make the platform their platform. So they want to direct the people, not to the scholars, not to the people who are well-written, right? Who have, like Theophilo Benga and Diop, have successfully beaten Europeans at their game. No, but they want to dismiss this type of work. They want to say that his material is irrelevant, but they haven't written anything. You show me anything that those people have written. I mean, I'm talking about our opponents. Just show me what they've written, right? Scholarship means that you have to write and you have to research. Show me anything that they have that is not regurgitated. And I'll show you, here's the thing. I'll show you, and the Amirah squad will show you where they got things directly from the Europeans. So I'm going to close right now, and we'll get back to it. But it's exciting coming into the new year with Baba TV. Happy New Year to the audience of Baba TV. Fire every time. Peace.